Hello guys, hello everyone. This is a very special guest today. I'm so happy and honored and really thrilled to have Christian Minson today. And I will read this because there's a lot of accomplishments here. And Christian is an international speaker, an author, trainer, coach, and a founder of Breathflow Wellness. He is also a former monk that he been for 10 years, and I believe in Los Angeles because I remember. And
Yes.
now he helps others to achieve greater spiritual and emotional intelligence by integrating trauma, releasing limiting habits, managing emotions, and teaching others to find meaning in their own lives and work. And seriously, guys, like this is like the best time to have someone like Christian right now, because we are living in a very, very unique times. And those times are so stressful to so many. And I tell you why I actually asked Christian to be talking to me today is because I met Christian in Costa Rica in a place called Rhythmia Life Advancement Center. And that was a place, we will go into it later, where I went mainly with the purpose to experience ayahuasca, because I was dealing with very traumatic memories and some depression for a long time. And I experienced that. But my biggest, I don't even know what word to use. I would say surprise was the breath work with Christian. Because the spiritual experience I had during that with Christian, there were two, but it was with you, Christian, that I was absolutely blown away that the power of our own breath that we have within us, through us, for free, given from God, from the Creator, is so immensely powerful that we don't realize it. So I just want to welcome you. I'm so happy I can talk to you today. And I have a few questions for you, but I would like to start with the breath work, because this is your specialty and I'm a living example of how amazing Christian is. And if anyone could ever experience this, Christian should be first person to try breath work with. So
Thank you. You're very kind.
Yeah, no, you're amazing. I mean, I will never forget this to the rest of my life. And I never had breath work before. And having this with you, literally the transformation, I think what really struck me was realizing my own power. And it was because of you, how you guided this. And I know there were a lot of people in that group who were absolutely blown away by this experience. So Christian, please tell me, breathwork, as far as helping us to go through this time in the history of humanity and our emotions and the energy, if you can elaborate on this, because I know there are people who are watching and they are having a lot of challenges right now.
Sure, I'd love to. And first of all, thanks for having me on your channel here. And I'm glad we got to be reunited in this way.
Me too.
Now, why is breathwork so critical at this time in our lives? And this time, to timestamp this, is during the COVID experience that we've all been part of, which has really limited our ability to do a lot of things that we normally would do, and we're having to stay put, and that is bringing up a lot of stuff. Now, why is that? Because not only in these times, but in all times, there's the way humans operate, basically, is that we have emotions. Humans are emotional beings. However, when we have an emotion, we have the choice to either express that emotion or not express it. We can say, I don't feel like it's appropriate, or I don't feel comfortable, or I don't know what's going to happen if I express this. So we shove these emotions down, we stuff them, and we lock them in a closet. And they're there. We pretend like they're not there, but they're there. And how do we pretend like they're not there? When their energy starts to come up, we run to the bar, When the energy starts to come up, we run to the game. The energy starts to come up, we go shopping. You know, the energy starts to come up, we do all these things that we haven't largely been able to do in these past 8-9 months, you know? And so the thing is, this energy is always trying to come up to be expressed, to be released. I like to say they are emotions, and E, if you break down that word, E would stand for energy and motion, energy and motion. So this energy is in motion in us, and it's constantly trying to get out. The thrust of its motion is it starts within us and it wants to come out of us, but we hold it in, and it gets uncomfortable unless we distract ourselves or do something that's going to avoid feeling those feelings. Well, in these pandemic times, we've largely not been able to do the things that normally we could distract ourselves with. So many people are finding themselves faced against the mirror with nowhere to run, nowhere to turn. And this is actually the good news, though. So this is the good news, because this energy has to be dealt with. The thing is, I like to quote Sigmund Freud, the great psychotherapist, who once said, "Unexpressed emotions never die. They just reemerge in darker and uglier ways."
Wow.
So if we really get the impact of that statement, it means that any of these feelings that we stuff down aren't dead. It's like they're festering. It's like they're molding underneath the surface, and they're causing all this disturbance in us. We're pretending like it's not happening, but we're feeling bad, or we're getting depression or feeling anxious, or what is it? And we don't know why. It's because
you got frozen for a moment. Are you there, Christian? I lost you. Are you there? Are you froze? But
I'm here.
I'm back. I'm so happy you're back.
That's all right. Yeah, this is
it happens.
now I'm
I know it happens.
Internet connection. So, but what I'm saying is that this energy has to be dealt with, and we're in a time where we don't have any other choice. So this is the good news. However, for people who have never ventured into dealing with this before, it can be a little disconcerting. And this is where breathwork comes in. It's one of the most fabulous tools for helping work through this energy and to bring it up in the gentlest way possible, the quickest way possible to get through it, and the most miraculous way, because it's really just dealing with the God-given tools that are available to us. And so that's what I do, is I help people to move through this emotional turmoil and such, and get to a place of more stability, to bring about healing of this past energy, and then to really focus on taking their lives forward and finding the way that they can actualize their potential in the greatest way.
So Christian, for those who would like to experience this, what would you suggest, either through your work, like to connect with you, or other facilitators that you recommend? I'm talking like the physical experience. What is the best way right now for people to do this kind of work?
I'd say, well, the first thing, get in touch with me, breathflow.com, the flow of the breath, breathflow.com.
Your website, right?
That's my website. Okay. And then you just go to the contact page and, fill out the form. I'll get an email and we can start a conversation. Again, over these COVID times, sessions have been done through Zoom, through video conferencing. And at first we were a little concerned about, is this actually going to work? Because it's been such a hands-on process.
Right.
But by and large, the results have been fabulous. The reports that I get from people who have done a Zoom session are at least on par, and sometimes even more miraculous than when I was doing the sessions live. And so
I was wondering, like, how you manage this via Zoom, for example, because I remember, like, there were moments when I was helped to breathe properly, because it's a different way of breathing. But I mean, that's amazing that actually you have such a great response in spite of there is no physical contact.
Yeah, exactly. And then that really speaks to the facilitator as well. So you want to
Okay.
be sure, you don't just, not just anybody is going to be able to deliver you that kind of experience. I've had 15 years of experience working with the breath in terms of breath work. I've had another 10 years of experience working with it in meditative practices and such. So I've got a lot of water under the bridge, so to speak, as far as learning how to really bring people to the best experience possible while doing the least possible to influence them. So the whole focus of this process is that it's you are doing it. It's your breath, it's your life
Right.
energy, and it's your effort. Now the facilitator helps and guides and takes you through rocky patches and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really how the facilitator will set you up and how they guide you through that can make all the difference to whether your experience is miraculous or whether it's just an average. That was kind of fun.
And can you tell more about the benefits of doing this kind of work?
Sure. What I love about this work is that the benefits are so on multiple levels. Our breath is really the confluence of the various dimensions of our being: physical dimension, emotional dimension, and ultimately the spiritual dimension of our being. So if you look at it, as we breathe, physically, oxygen is what we're breathing in.
Yeah.
Oxygen is our number one energy source. So the more oxygen we get into our body, the more energized we actually are. The more clarity we have in our brain, the better ability to remember or to think clearly, the more our muscles are stronger, more resilient. They have more endurance, more flexibility. All of our organs function at optimal levels, and our senses come online in a whole new way.
Yes.
And this is just on the physical level. Then we have the emotional level, which our breath and our emotions have a very intimate link. Every emotion we have actually has a corresponding breath pattern. And as we learn to breathe better, we can learn to breathe in ways that induce feelings of peace, joy, love, rather than breathing habitually, unconsciously, and habitually in ways that induce stress or anxiety or fear. And this is largely what's happening with people, is where if you're experiencing chronic stress or chronic anxiety, it's and there's nothing really out there that's causing the stress. There's no saber-toothed tiger that's about to come and eat you, proverbially in this day and age, but that you're breathing in a way that continually reinforces feelings of stress and anxiety. And so you go around feeling that. We learn to breathe in a way that brings love, peace, and joy.
May I say something? Sorry to interrupt, because this is exactly, I was thinking about this before I connected with you now, that there is a certain habitual way of breathing that is related to feeling certain emotions. Like there's habitual emotions that are associated with a habitual way of breathing. And I'm talking from my experience, of course, that it's almost like you because you're thinking the same, you're experiencing the same, you're feeling the same, and you're breathing the same. And it's like to the certain level of this shallow, it's very shallow. Mm-hmm. And you almost don't go any lower, because that's where your frequency is.
Well, exactly. Well, there's a number of things I can say to that. And that one, that it's shallow and often a little bit faster breathing, or we tend to hold our breath for long periods of time without even realizing it.
Yeah.
These both trigger the reptilian brain and the fight or flight or freeze response. So when we're breathing this way, we're constantly sending signals to our brain to be on alert, to be anxious, to be, to be frozen, to be scared, to be, so Now, this was valuable to us back when we did have to run from that saber-toothed tiger, but nowadays it can still be valuable if there's something truly happening. But what we're talking about is habituating ourselves to breathing dysfunctionally, and that creates chronic stress and chronic anxiety in us.
Yes.
So we learn to take deeper, fuller breaths, more free and relaxed breaths, and connected, flowing breaths. And that is how we start to create the habit of breathing in a way that makes us feel peaceful, that makes us feel loving, that makes us feel
more present, really more present.
Exactly.
But you know, I'm sorry, I don't want to I don't allow you to continue. You know why? Because like I download this in the next
It's okay, but let me just say,
yes,
because the final benefits of this really are on that spiritual level, and part of it, what you said, segues in nicely, because presence, as we breathe, we become more present to life, and life in its miraculousness, the miracle of life is happening in the present moment.
Yeah.
It's not happening in the future. It's not happening in the past. And yet we tend to dwell in the future and the past.
Yeah.
So the breath brings us to the present, and we start to be able to, it's just like a relationship. If I'm thinking of this or I'm thinking of that, and you're trying to talk to me, I'm not really present to you. But as soon as I get present, and let's see if, are we back?
Yes, we are. I can hear you. Sometimes I hear your voice all the time.
You with me?
Sometimes your face is the visual, but it's okay. I can hear you. You know, I didn't. How come I didn't even think about this question, Christian? And it just came to me. The masks. Let's talk about this now.
Yeah, my favorite subject.
This is right. I mean, you know how I didn't even think about it, which is a good sign. So. Now, I know it's not easy topic to go into. I always say this clearly, like I am not for it. Okay, that's what I say. And I disagree that there is any benefit in this. But let's say, what would you advise to those people? Let's say for me, for example, if I decide to go somewhere and travel, I know that on the plane I have to wear it, right? Mm-hmm. Let's imagine this scenario. You're going somewhere, you have 10-hour flight, 8-hour flight, like that. You get to the destination. Is there any way, because there is a lack of oxygen, and you know better than I do. They say about 20% or so.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you talk about this if you wish? How to approach this situation from the health standpoint, like how to bring the body into balance and emotionally as well.
Yeah. Well, so you mean while wearing masks, or
let's say people have to wear this mask. I'm actually in unemployment right now, not like to be proud of, but never been in my life. This is first time ever. But that's not the point. The point is that I think that's actually, it is the point, because I could go and find a job, but I
have to wear a mask
because I know how mentally, because I know how mentally it will affect my well-being, my emotional state of mind. And I've been depressed many times in my life. I had problems with depression for a long time and anxiety. And I only put the mask on when I have to go to the grocery store, and otherwise they will not allow me to do the shopping. So, so I know that there are people who are not in this position that they have to work, and they wear those masks for 8 hours, 10 hours, and I feel for them, you know, I do feel for them.
Yeah, yeah, it's well, it's an ongoing debate, and I can only say that you know, for those who feel strongly to not use masks, to continue to let your voice be heard, and you know, it's hard because we don't really know what the truth is about the efficacy of them. We know that, you know, we breathe and we breathe out particles, and there's particles can be in the air now. So there is perhaps some marginal benefit if you're sick to hold those particles in so they don't spread out on anywhere else. However, for everyone else, if you're not sick and somebody is sick, wearing a mask may cause you to not breathe in one of those particles. However, there's other ways to not spread the particles. Just breathe very lightly and, through your nose, then, you're not spraying stuff everywhere. I mean, it's very practical. It's like washing hands, that's a very practical thing, easy to do, something that takes personal responsibility. So the same thing, we can breathe, we don't have to be breathing kind of like I'm, if I'm talking excitedly, particles of fluids may go into the air. So, but I say just try to take breaks where you can not be with the mask. Like I rode on the airplane for about 20 hours and had to wear a mask.
Where did you go?
My workaround was to eat and drink a lot, because as long as you're eating and drinking, you're allowed to not have a mask.
Yes. And I found the same. I didn't fly for 20 hours like you, for like 5-6 hours. And that was my escape from this. Because I knew I will not be able to have it all the time. But do you think, is there a certain way to balance the body after like 8-hour work day when people go home?
Yes. Well, so what I would recommend is that you do a breath session, that you do self-conscious connected breathing, because, as it is, part of what I just continually educate people on anyway is that most of us breathe at about 20% of our capacity anyway. So learning to breathe better without masks on is a very valuable thing. Mm-hmm. Now we've got the masks on, and the 20% we're breathing is filtered by even more compromised oxygen intake. So it's very critical that we continually, reinforce that oxygen as soon as we're able to. Getting outside. I don't believe in wearing masks outside, especially if you're more than 6 feet away from people. We need to breathe in fresh air. We need to breathe in, or in your home, going into a breath session is going to help oxygenate you at levels of like 70, 80, 90% of your capacity, and give you enough oxygen to, keep yourself relatively balanced. The body is fairly resilient in that if we deprive it of something, we can come back later and sort of catch up. We can do that with sleep oftentimes. We can do that with oxygen. But if we continually deprive ourselves, eventually we're going to hit a critical point where we create a problem that may or may not be able to be fixed easily. And so you want to at least be sure to take these deep breaths without a mask as often as you can in between those periods where you are wearing them.
Christian, I want to ask you also, do you think, for example, that the proper way of breathing can help us to utilize more energy from food? I know it's a strange question maybe, but I was thinking about it. Let's say we eat pretty healthy, but we don't breathe properly. Do you think this is connected, like the food and
it's completely connected? And I'll connect. First of all, yes, to the answer to your question. I'll explain it a little more. But let's say this: what are we actually distilling once we eat our food? We turn it into proteins, we turn it into fats, turn it into vitamins, minerals. That's what the body uses. But what are proteins, minerals, vitamins, fats? They're comprised of life energy. Right. It's actually life energy which we need to consume in order to continue to stay alive.
Yeah.
Now, oxygen that we breathe is full of this life energy. We also call it prana. That's a Sanskrit term. You'll hear it in yoga a lot because it came from the East. But this prana, or life force energy, is abundantly available in oxygen, and it's easier to distill from the oxygen than it is to break down food into component parts and then to break that down into the life force energy to actually be able to use in our body. So breathing is actually, once again, our number one energy source. We need and more than we need food.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So you can go without food for 40 days. You can go without water for 5 days. You can
we
go
forget that, right? We forget that.
Yeah, yeah.
People overeat and they think food is the most important thing.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the other thing is when we're talking about digesting the food, if we're oxygenated, remember what I said earlier in the benefits, the physical benefits, our organs work better when they are oxygenated. So the stomach is going to produce more hydrochloric acid. It's going to have more peristaltic action. It's going to be able to do what it does better to digest that food and extract the energy and the nutrients out of it than if you didn't breathe very well.
Yeah.
So on both of those levels, we are going to be better energized as a result of learning how to breathe.
It's amazing. It's like, it's such a divine human. It's such a perfect divine machine in a way when you think of it.
Well,
it's the highest technology.
Indeed. You know, I often joke, it's like God's sitting up there on his throne somewhere going, I want to make beings in my image, you know, so thinks maybe I'll make humans. And then it's like, I want to endow them with all the powers that I have, but I don't want them to get a big head about it. So I don't want it just to be too easy for them to, you know, just have those powers. So I want them to work for it, but I don't want them to work too hard. So where am I going to hide their power? Right underneath their noses. And indeed, this is it. Our breath is where is the link to our divine power. And it's hidden literally right underneath our nose. So well hidden that most of us have completely not gotten how powerful this process is for us.
You know, I have to ask you this, if you don't mind, because when I was at Rhythmia, and I remember the breath work that I attended was actually the last 2 days. Some people have it in the beginning, but the way I arrived was like, first I had ayahuasca for nights, and then I had breath work with you, and there was one more.
Yeah.
And in a way, my ayahuasca experience was incredible, but in a way, your work actually totally triumphed over ayahuasca, because I realized that I don't need any other, and yes, it's sacred, it's Mother Ayahuasca, it's a sacred plant medicine. And I'm not saying it's not helpful. By all means, I might again experience this. But what really, really hit me was like, oh my God, I don't really need anything. I have it within me already.
Yeah.
Like, it's just to know the proper way to do it. And it was so beautiful. And in a way, I was like, I'm not saying disappointed by ayahuasca, but I was just like, wow, I just couldn't.
Yeah. Well, everything you say is right on. Basically, what the plant medicine or the ayahuasca can do and what breathwork can do are the same. They're both, I often say, they're both like keys that unlock the door to our consciousness and then allow us to really see deeper into ourselves, and through that receive healing or receive guidance or direction in our lives. The breath work opens that door, and then you see it beckon you in. It's like somebody's there ready to serve you tea, to sit down, have a nice conversation. The plant medicine opens that door, and then when you turn to look, it kicks you in, locks the door, and then doesn't let you out for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, you know, that's kind of
depends what door, because sometimes it's a good door, sometimes it's a bad door.
And that is my joking way of kind of comparing the two. They're both powerful tools. The one thing that the breathwork has over the ayahuasca is that you don't need anything more than what you've already got. And it's really a self-empowering tool.
Yes.
The liability to the plant medicine is that people start to rely on it and think, I
Yes,
can't be whole
yes,
unless I have this. No, the
yes,
wholeness comes from within you.
yeah,
The medicine just gives you a temporary window to see clearly, into your own being and how to change things. But the breath work does exactly that as well. And, you're not
and the
beholden
access
to it
and
for 8 hours.
Christian also, and I'm so glad you mentioned this because it was also my observation later on that there is a certain level. Some people get addicted to ayahuasca. It's almost like a crutch, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do, no, but it's almost like they cannot imagine solving or resolving or releasing certain things without having access to it. And that's another thing. You have to have access to it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
bread is within you wherever
That's
you
right.
go.
And you could say, well, we all need, we all appreciate being stimulated when we need to solve a problem, or we've got a challenge before us, or all that, or we need to think critically. To have some crutch or some support is helpful. And that, plant medicine can help get us out of the box of our mind and see things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
But like you said, one, you need to have access to it. So
Yeah.
if you don't, what do? Freak out? And that's like, I don't think people can get physically addicted to the plant medicine, but they can get mentally addicted in the way, like you're saying, that,
Yes.
unless I go do this ayahuasca
That's what I
training,
mean. Yes,
able to
exactly.
solve my
Yes.
problems. I'm not going to be able to be happy in life unless I
Yeah.
figure this out through the
Yeah.
plant medicine.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is that you've got a built-in medicine, what I call our original medicine, which is the pranic life force energy, the medicine that brought us to life in the first place. And so as we work with this energy, it is the energy that brought everything into creation. It is the creative energy. So it's going to stimulate the creative energy within your brain, within your soul, to solve the problems that you're
It's
challenged with.
beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I actually want to ask you this because we talked about this before we started the interview. One of the teachers that I respect immensely, and one of my favorite spiritual teachers that are out there is Gregg Braden. And I didn't know, Christian, that you actually work with him during some workshops and seminars that he hosts, like in New Mexico. And I want to ask you now, do you think this will still continue, this work with him when?
Oh, yeah. So it's nice that you bring him up because, we met through Rhythmia, and Gregg Braden and I met through Rhythmia. He happened to be the guest speaker there one week. And the guest speakers, it's interesting because, the program is for the people and, but the guest speakers are always welcome to participate as well. And some do and some don't. And those who participate in the breath work, they often have they are a teacher and everybody's looking at them differently. Yeah. And they don't usually feel as comfortable to just let go and to be themselves, basically. Yes. They always have to be a little bit reserved. Well, Gregg Braden came into the breath work and he just let it go. He got into it. He received my guidance and adjusted his breathing according to the assistance I was giving. He bawled his eyes out, let his emotions just flow. And at the end, when we have a time to share, he got on the microphone and just, extolled the virtues of his experience and said, wow, this has really helped me get in touch with certain things that had been challenging me. And so, it's always great to get praise like that. But then a couple of weeks later, he emailed me or called me. I can't remember what it was, but said, I'm doing this program in New Mexico and I want to have a more experiential element. And I just love what happened to me at the breathwork. I really love how you conduct the breath work, you know, and
Me too.
oh, thank you. Thanks. And it's great to hear it. You know, I mean, it's great to hear from anybody, but especially from him as well. Because
Yeah.
as we were talking earlier, he's probably one of the most authentic people I've
Yes.
ever met, period, let alone somebody who holds such a high stature, being
Yeah.
still so very humble and so unassuming. He doesn't have an air about him. And he loves me. I love him. We've worked together
So
wonderfully.
good. I'm so glad because, you know, I never met him in person. And like I mentioned to you before too, I experienced quite few very well-known spiritual teachers. Okay. And we all, you know, there's this saying, you become who you surround yourself with. And actually his closest friends, like Joe Dispenza, this is also one of the most real and genuine people. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the circle of people around him. I never met him in person. I read his books and I watched his interviews and his teachings. And I can literally feel like what you experience with him, Christian, like through your work with him, that means someone who is absolutely without ego, like he lets that go completely.
Yeah.
It's so, especially in that field when you are like, you know, very known spiritual teacher, and like you said, people look up to you. And I would love to experience this and work with you again in New Mexico one day, really, when they open, because he has amazing workshops, and if breathwork is part of it, it's like even better in my
Well,
opinion.
planning to. We were scheduled for 4 different events together this year, and of course,
All
all of
right.
those
Yeah.
got, you know, New Mexico, Paris,
Wow.
Australia. I think there were 2 in New Mexico, and then and so if things go well, 2021,
I'm
March
coming
2021, I believe, is New Mexico. And
in March. I'm coming.
actually, February 2021 may be New Mexico, and March may be Paris.
Oh,
One of those, but you can look on his site,
okay. Okay. But you will be
GreggBraden.com, I
there,
believe.
right? You will be there.
Yes, that's the plan, right? That's we're now as we'll just have to see how this whole COVID thing goes and all that.
I think
Uh,
next spring, Christian, we will be able to do it. I have a feeling.
Good.
It's
Well,
the inner knowing.
it's
So
my inner desire.
let me ask you last more question that I have for you. How can you be a monk in Los Angeles? The crazy, and now I don't even want to, the vibration, all this, I don't even want to explain what's underneath the ground there, okay? But how can you be, and I remember when I talked to you at Rhythmia, I still remember, I have very good memory, and you were talking about the Lake Shrine in LA, which not many people who even live there know there is such a thing that exists, like a lake shrine, which is like, you feel like you're in a totally different reality.
Yeah.
Almost like you are in some kind of temple in Asia, and it's not LA, but then there's this traffic far behind the trees. How can you be a monk in LA? I just was trying to comprehend it. Tell me.
Well, as you know, tried to frame that in a way that, like, for instance, Jesus Christ didn't hang out with all of the people who were spiritually advanced. He got down in the ditches. He hung out with the tax collectors and the money changers and the
Right.
prostitutes and all this, right? It's like
Real people.
and that's where knowledge and spiritual understanding was needed most, right? Is like to help people shift their consciousness so they can start to embody a higher version of themselves. So, you know, LA is definitely a sea of various levels of consciousness, but there's a lot of lower consciousness there. And so something needs to offset and balance that. So, you know, we weren't as our ashram was up on top of Mount Washington, which is close to downtown, but it's on a hill. So you got to go up to the hill, and there we had, I don't know how many acres, 30 acres or so of property that we basically lived on. We didn't have to leave there that much unless we needed to go on a dentist appointment or buy shampoo or something like that. But we basically stayed there, and it was beautiful because you look out and you just see, you know,
Wow.
from where we were, you could see on a clear day, which didn't happen all that often, all the way out to Santa Monica and the Pacific Ocean, which was about 30 miles as the crow flies. And then just this sea of concrete and humanity below. And you could just hear the hum and you could feel the energy, but it was like we were on a little island. And then, you know, we did our practices, we did
Incredible.
elevate our consciousness. And ideally that's, you know,
So you
helps.
were actually literally, you were sending frequency over the city from that elevation.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
So now when you left, are they still there? Are they still balancing this or no?
Yes.
My gosh,
They're
they have so
balancing it.
much
And
work to
now,
do now. They have so much work to
yeah.
do. Hmm.
That's for sure. And especially since I'm gone, now they're balancing me as well. They, you know, I have to be balanced in terms of no.
So when you leave that kind of environment, um, what made you leave? It was a sense of readiness for the soul, like the soul journey, and you go, or
Yeah, that's about as best that I could put it. That I was getting, you know, I'd been there for 10 years, and as I made the commitment to basically be there for life, kind of like marriage.
already?
You know,
Oh,
you get married, you're not planning to stay married only for 5 or 10 years, but
wow.
you plan to do it for life. And but at around the 10-year mark, I was getting these inner signals that it was time to leave, and it was very disconcerting. Brought up a lot of doubt, a lot of self-reflection. I engaged
Uh-huh.
the help of my counselors and all that. But this is actually the you know the flower to this experience was that I got introduced to breathwork, and breathwork really helped me in a way
Wow.
when even when the meditation techniques and all that weren't helping, because I was so emotionally out of balance.
Mhm.
The breathwork helped me to release some of that emotion and get more grounded. And then it really helped me tune in with what I'd say my core inner uh, drive or desire. And when I really weighed the options of do I stay or do I go, when I thought about staying, all it felt like was very heavy, very
Wow.
constrictive, contracting. When I thought about going, even though it was scary, I didn't have a job, I didn't have a place to live, I didn't know what I was going to do next. But when I really breathed into that idea of stay or of leaving, it just felt expansive. It felt like there was energy behind it. And so I finally got the guts to say, I believe it's in my best interest to leave. And when I said that, it was literally like a weight came off your shoulders. You know how they say it feels
Yes.
like a weight came off? I
Yes.
felt that experience. Like I was feeling so heavy, and all of a sudden I felt light as a feather. And and that's, you know,
That's
that sent
I
me.
yeah, you followed that. You know, that's how I feel right now actually about leaving California. When I think about like going to Europe even for some time, and then moving to a different state, there's literally like you were reading yourself, you were reading your own energy. Like there's a sense
Mhm.
of contraction, like it's congested, contracted.
Yep,
It's not expansion. It's not,
exactly.
and then the breath is suppressed too, because the thinking, and I'm talking like for me, when I think this or this, and I can feel like I'm like stopping to breathe.
Well, this is it. And this is, you know, we get back into, we were talking about plant medicine earlier in ayahuasca. All that breathwork is doing, all that plant medicine is doing is helping us get in touch with our own intuitive insight, the connection to our higher self, which knows the best path for us and knows, you know, what's best. If we, the breath is just an amplifier to that intuition. So the intuition is always speaking to us, but usually it's speaking in a voice like this that sometimes we can't hear, you know, so it'll speak a little louder. But we use the breath and it's like an amplifier. It turns up the dial on that voice. So you were hearing, yes,
Yeah.
go in that direction. And then you, oh, now I hear it. The
Yeah.
plant medicine does the same thing. It just brings your intuition out,
Yeah.
and it, you know, often does it in funky ways. You know, it's
More
closed
shocking.
visions
It's more shocking, Christian, I think. It's
Yeah.
more shocking, and some people can be terrified by this because the images or experience is more drastic. And for me, breathwork was more natural, but still incredibly profound and deep and very, very spiritual experience.
Yeah. So you
And
say if you could have a profound spiritual experience,
yeah,
but be terrified and have a hard time, or you could have a profound spiritual experience and it be relatively easy and comfortable.
yeah,
Which one would you go for? I'd
right,
probably go
exactly.
for, yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for your time. And just to clarify, when people want to find you and experience, at least try what this breathwork is really about, then they just connect with you through your website.
Yeah, they can
And
go to breathflow.com. They can find me. And then, like I said, that's probably the easiest way to go into my contact page. You can go into Facebook, R. Christian Minson, Instagram, all those things, YouTube, R. Christian Minson. I do have a course coming up. If
okay,
people see this before October 19th, a new
yes,
course that
I'm
I've got
going to post this today or tomorrow. So definitely, yes.
Excellent. So it's like the 21-day emotional mastery challenge.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's a 21-day email course. Each day you get a new email, and it works. We'll be working with breath work and all sorts of other tips and tricks to help you kind of get in tune with your emotions, to release what needs to be there, to bring
Okay.
in new stuff, and to vision a life that is more in alignment with your higher
And
self.
is it affordable, Christian, if someone is like financially struggling
Oh
right
yeah,
now?
that's
It
it's
is?
only like a $97 course.
Oh,
So
wow, that's wonderful. That's
yeah,
great. That's great. No, because, especially now, it's like so many people are in this situation where they are not really able to, afford
yeah,
a lot of
afford
things.
much and need a lot of help. And so that's exactly why I created it, was to try to offer something in this time that would be,
So
accessible and impactful.
do you think now when this situation will transform into a new, and I see it, a new and better reality, that's how I see it, because this is necessary cleansing, really. This is purging what's happening.
Exactly. Life goes in waves, right? It doesn't just go straight up, but ideally those waves are going in an upward trajectory. However, we have these peak moments
Yep,
where it's best, and then
yep,
these what you'd call purging, moments where we have to release.
yes,
There's times when we're in a receiving mode, and this is why the breath is such a great metaphor as well, because think about it. The process of breathing requires us to let go of what we have before we can take in anything new.
so true.
And so if we like
Right.
really look at life, when we're forced, so to speak, to let go of our old habits, forced to let go of our old feelings,
Yeah.
forced to let go of our old circumstances, know that that's necessary before you can breathe in the new circumstances, the new energies, the new abundance that life is trying to give you,
Yeah.
but it can't get in until you release what's inside first.
Yes, it's so beautiful. You're so right. It's so true. Thank you, Christian. I'm so grateful for your time, and I really hope we can connect again in some real, 3D, tangible, tangible place. So
Well,
I'm
hopefully I'll
very,
be
very,
out there in California soon. So if I do, then we'll at least connect. And
yes. So all the best, and thank you for your work. And I really encourage people to check out Christian, because like I said, when I started this YouTube channel, and my intention was about travel, which I will get into it later in the future, that's no problem. But I wanted to bring people for now that impacted my life in this way or the other, or who are new people who I'm inspired by. And Christian, I experience, and it's very, very special person. And, I'm not someone who will say things if I don't believe in it, especially lately after a lot of reveal about certain people in the world. you know, when you meet a real person and good-hearted person and it touched you in your life, you want to remember those people. So I thank you again for everything you do.
Well, thank you. And thank you for
Thank
that
you, Kish.
endorsement as well. That's, it means a lot. And
Thank you.
so I hope that I'll see you soon.
Yep.
And to everybody out there, namaste.
Namaste.